Okay, well, I didn't watch this whole Philadelphia Dallas game the other night, but I did watch a little bit of it, and one of the things that stood out to me was that they honored one of their ex players or Hall of Famer players who died in March, and his name was Chuck Bednarik. And the reason that's significant is because he was number 60. So here he is here, number 60, and that's significant because I'll show you in a second. But I mean, look at this. Birthplace Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Dies at the age of 89, March 21st this year. 89 we've talked about a ton dealing with the Queen Elizabeth, but just Bethlehem in general, and then Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I bet you there's a bunch of other towns in Pennsylvania that all go back to the Bible. Philadelphia, one of the churches in Revelation, Bethlehem, where Jesus was born. But anyway, let's check it out here. Look what he's famous for. So number 60, and he was a member of the Eagles NFL championship team in 1949 and 1960. 1949, man, I talked about that so much, since Valentine's Day. But in the 1960, he was number 60. And it says in the 1960 NFL championship game, Bednarik, the last Eagle between Green Bay's Jim Taylor in the end zone, tackled Taylor on the final play of the game at the Eagles' 8-yard line and remained atop Taylor as the final seconds ticked off. So basically, he ensured that they won the 1960 championship game, number 60. But also in 1960, he is famous for knocking out Frank Gifford of the New York Giants out for 18 months. Now that's interesting because Frank Gifford also died this year. I mean, what are the odds of that? This guy is famous for knocking out Frank Gifford, and then Frank Gifford also dies this year. Frank Gifford dies on 8-9. This guy was 89. I mean, pretty strange. Number 60, 1960. This happened in 1960. It even says down here, he was extremely durable. He was named All-Pro 8 times and was the last of the NFL's 60 Minutemen, players who played both offense and defense on a regular basis. So he played the whole game, a 60-minute man, number 60. I mean, come on. That's a lot of 60. And I mean, just recently we've had a lot of 60. We've had Moses Malone, who died at the age of 60. It was on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh is 60, Hashanah 60. I've been talking about Abraham Lincoln and the Lincoln, Nebraska stuff. Abraham Lincoln 60, Lincoln, Nebraska 60. Tom Osborne was from Hastings, Nebraska. Hastings adds up to 60. Mike Riley, he was the former head coach of Oregon State, and this is the guy that he surpassed with the most wins at Oregon State, and he has up to 60, but he was also from Hastings, Nebraska. He's 33 years older than Tom Osborne. You just had the earthquake in Chile, Santiago, Chile, 60. The most powerful earthquake ever recorded was in 1960. Even the word just Malone is 60. I think that's how you spell it. There was a chef or something that died at the age of 60, the same day that Moses Malone died at the age of 60. The Braves fan who fell and died was 60 years old. He played it, and it was at Turner Field. Turner Field, 60. I've talked about the Moses stuff. Tribe of Levi, 60. Nebraska's other mascot, Little Red, adds up to 60. Moses died at the top of Pisgah, 60. The Delta, there's so much stuff here. It is ridiculous. This is all about the Delta State University shooting. The Hank Aaron guy just died. His name adds up to 60. Pearl Harbor equals 60. Even happened in 1941. And actually, that's interesting because, like I said, Frank Gifford died on 8-9, and then this guy died at the age of 89. But if you go from March 21st to 8-9, it's 141 days. The mirror's 1441 or 4141, however you want to look at it. Pretty interesting. And there's a ton of 41 stuff even, so I mean, I could go up here and list it all. One other thing I wanted to mention was during the U.S. Open in tennis, you had Jack Sock, the American who collapsed, and I said he was wearing the blood moon colored shirt, and he collapsed. He lost to a guy named Ruben. Ruben is 60. But also Jack Sock, I talked about it, but I never put it together until right now. Jack Sock, his birthday is in 2 days, the 24th of September. We've mentioned that just because of the Pope and whatnot. But he's also from Lincoln, Nebraska. I mean, what are the odds of that? All this Lincoln, Nebraska coding, and then this guy collapses in the blood moon colored shirt, and he's from Lincoln, Nebraska. And later that night, there was even a drone that fell into the stadium or whatever. And the drone that fell into the stadium, it was like a teacher who owned the drone. Let me find it here. It was this guy right here, owner of the drone, Daniel Verley. Daniel Verley equals 60. I'm just going to throw in the 41s here really quick. So we even had like the Roanoke shooter, Vester Lee Flanagan. He was 41 years old. Then you have the Delta State shooter who shot his 41-year-old girlfriend. There was more to it than that. I can't even remember. It might be in here somewhere. Jamal Charles adds up to 41. He had that big fumble in the game. It was picked up by Roby. Roby is 60, equals 60. Broncos 41. Chiefs 41. Nebraska Cornhuskers defense. Black shirts 41. USA 41. Skull and Bones that deals with the black shirts 41. The coach, when they became the black shirts, was 41. Died on a day. That adds up to 41. They play in Memorial Stadium. Memorial 41. Husker fans 41. Rigged 41. Moses Malone 41. I mean, it never ends. Chicago on the 41 degrees north. Lincoln and Obama, the only presidents from Illinois. I talked about Fort Calhoun. Fort Calhoun is actually on 41 degrees north as well. It's in Washington County. Abe Lincoln died in Washington, D.C. Also interesting, someone in the comments, and for the life of me I can't find it now, they talked about the Chinese leader here. He's actually going to be in the United States, or he is in the United States right now, I think, on September 22nd. Let me pull it up here. Or it says he will be in the Seattle area Tuesday through Thursday, September 22nd through 24th. But look where he's going. A meeting with students and faculty at Tacoma's Lincoln High School. What are the odds of that? Also, his name in gematria is 58. I don't have a big list of them all organized right now, but 58 has been coded like crazy, from the Roanoke shooting to the theater shootings to many other things. But if I had it written all up, I'd show you, but I don't. I guess I can just do one simple one. Allison Parker, the news lady that got shot supposedly, 58. But anyway, I just thought that was really interesting that he is going to Lincoln High School. Anyway, one other thing I wanted to point out about Chuck Bednarik here. It talks about how he had a feud. Had a famous quarrel with Chuck Noll, who was once played for the Cleveland Browns. Talked about Cleveland and how it deals with Moses. But he was the 239th pick in the 1953 draft. That's the 923 we've been talking about, which is in a few hours tomorrow. In dealing with like Civil War type stuff, it says during his career he was notable for the opportunities he gave African Americans, starting the first African American quarterback and having the first black assistant coach. So I guess that was his coaching career. But interesting that was what he was noted for, was giving opportunities to African Americans. Anyway, all of this coding recently, we've discovered at least, it all ties into Moses. And I even thought of something today. This talk of the Syrian refugees, but it's actually called the Exodus of the Syrians too. So another Exodus reference. All of the refugees leaving or whatever. So pretty interesting stuff. A few other things I wanted to point out. Moses, before he went up and got the 10 Commandments, there was actually an earthquake. And that's just interesting because I've talked about earthquake dealing with Philadelphia and the 58s even. So I'll show you here. It's Exodus 19:18. So pull it up here. And Mount Sinai was altogether on smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. So there was a quake there, or the ground shook, or whatever, the mountain shook, or was it a volcano? I don't really know. But and then it says, whatever, the trumpet sounded, Moses spake, and the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mount, and the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mountain. Moses went up. So, yeah, there was a great earthquake, or it says the whole mount quaked greatly. So I'm taking it there was an earthquake. Also, just in general, I mean, it doesn't have to mean much, but 19 and then 18 is when it talks about it. So like 1918, the year is 97 years ago. And that's interesting to me because I talked about all these 60s, and the word 60 adds up to 97. Who knows? So before I talk about earthquakes, I just want to re-show this here. So the word Moses adds up to 17 and 71. Moses Eugene Malone, 71. The Ten Commandments, 71. Nebraska, 71. The word 71 even adds up to 144, which is super significant with this earthquake stuff. Like there's 12 tribes of Israel, 12 times whatever, 12,000 times 12,000, 144,000. Super Bowl 50 adds up to 71. And that's why I don't think that anything I don't think it's going to be the end of the world on September 23rd or something like that. Because they wouldn't code the Super Bowl to go with it, I wouldn't think. So maybe something is probably going to happen, but to me it seems like they're still going to have a Super Bowl, so definitely not the end of the world. It does make me wonder, though, if the Cleveland Browns are going to do something this year. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're going to win, but just wonder if there's going to be some significant story that goes along with the Cleveland Browns, like the bullying scandal that the Dolphins had. So who knows? Anyway, dealing with earthquake, I had this comment from the other day or whatever when the Chile earthquake happened or whatever, and I'll explain it all here in a second. Anyway, this is the earthquake that happened, and it was on September 16th of this year. It was originally they said it was the Santiago, Chile earthquake, but now it's this town, Illapel. And interesting, it's even on the 71st meridian, and Moses is 71, whatever, all them 71s. Anyway, we have the last blood moon of the Tetrad or whatever coming up, and the last blood moon that happened was on 4/4, kind of like 44, April 4th, which adds up to 144, just like 71. 44 even adds up to 144, and that deals with the tribes of Israel. But anyway, it lasted only 4 minutes and 43 seconds. And if you take that day and you add 4 months and 43 days to it, it takes you to the Chile earthquake. Also, the amount of days is 5 months and 12 days. The 5/12, we had the Philadelphia train wreck, and also the aftershock, the big aftershock, and the Nepal earthquake. The original Nepal earthquake was on April 25th. If you take April 25th and you go to the Santiago one, 144 days. Also, look what it says here. It killed more than 9,000 people and injured more than 23,000, 923. It's also known as the Gorka earthquake. The word Gorka in gematria adds up to 60, just like the word 4. So 44 would be 2 4s, 4 would be 60 plus 60, which is 120. And Moses died at the age of 120. Also, the aftershock, the big aftershock, was on the same day as the Philadelphia train wreck then, and it's 17 days later. Like I said, Moses adds up to 17 and 71. Let's check out the May 12th one then. Actually, I just want to show the times here, or the dates. 5/12 to the Santiago one, 4 months, 4 days, kind of like 44. The word earthquake adds up to 44. Moses was a prophet. Prophet adds up to 44. And look at the previous earthquakes in Nepal. 1934, that's significant with a ton of Moses stuff. And this one in 1988. Now look at the time, 23, 9, and 11. So 9/11 and 9/23 in it. But I ran out of time, so I'll just make another part Have a good one.